Perhaps we can start, yes. Nina, would you like to, have you got any topic or question you'd like to start with?
Yes. It's about nimitta, because I heard nimitta is arising and falling away, and I did not get that, because I thought nimitta is like a sign of many moments of, for example, seeing or hearing. And now I cannot, maybe I understood wrongly. I have no right understanding of nimitta. I did not understand how nimitta itself can arise and fall away.
Can there be nimitta alone without any reality?
No, because it is nimitta of many realities.
Yeah. In truth, there must be nimitta of that which arises and falls away, like seeing now. No sampatichana, santirana, panchadavara, vachana, or anything. That's why seeing right now is not just a single moment, but many moments to appear as nimitta of seeing.
Yes.
And from then there can be nimitta of shape and form to be taken, not in words, and then after that in words and so on. So in truth, what appears is only the world of nimitta. That's why there must be the absolute truth, which can be enlightened when there's more understanding of one reality at a time. Because when they are together, how can there be the moment of understanding each one as different one? So they do not appear the characteristic as arising and falling away at all, right? So now there are many nimitta of realities, rupa and nama. Each one is nimitta of that one appearing. It's just the life, any moment, hearing, thinking, seeing, smelling, many moments in between unknown because they do not show up. So what is there in life is the moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. While the other jittas do not appear. That's what appears now is the nimitta of the reality which experiences each moment unknown. What is what? Like now, the truth is now, and the absolute truth is now too. And the absolute truth can be discerned, understood, let go little by little of wrong understanding that is there all the time. Because in truth, nothing can stay at all, arising and falling away so rapidly, quickly. How can there be the understanding without understanding each as it not the other? Like seeing is not hearing now, but they seem to be together. So what appears is the nimitta of seeing, not the sampatichana, santira, and other bhavanga and moment. What now hears is not the same process of seeing. Only nimitta appears, no matter what process and what way.
But the nimitta itself, can we say, it arises and falls away?
We cannot hear you, Ajahn.
Yeah, we can see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
now we can hear
Yes,
you.
Ajahn.
No, we can't hear you, Ajahn.
I didn't say anything.
Nina, as I understand, it's the reality itself which arises and falls away. And if you heard something like about the arising, falling away, the nimitta, it's just a shorthand. It's a shorthand referring to the nimitta of the reality which arises and falls away. So we may talk about rising and falling away, but actually it's the reality itself.
Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, thank you.
We cannot just talk about the sign itself, rising and falling away. It's the sign of the reality itself, which arises and falls. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Only that which is conditioned reality can arise and fall away.
Yeah.
The sign of it, the impression of it. It's just the sign, the impression. But as Ajahn said, without the reality itself, arising and falling away countless times, there cannot be the sign of it.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a shorthand that's used, like understanding the mind door or something. So we have to understand what is meant. Yes.
Yeah.
So just what you thought before.
Yes.
Is there nimitta of Kunsara?
There must be at this moment.
So nimitta of what now appearing?
Any reality.
Just one at a time as something. For example, a bottle, see, many moments of seeing and other realities in between, but only seeing appears now as it seems. 7 moments of Javana, it appears as just the reality which life of this life, that's all. So short. But since at moment of having such Javana, there is still seeing and hearing. So do they not arise and fall away? Can they be the same moment? The truth is the truth, but it does not appear as it is. That's why the word appears only as nimitta of everything so true, but in truth, nothing is there. Always gone in a moment, one by one, very quickly. So it's a dream world about nimitta. As Kunina, Kunsara, Kunjanasan. In truth, nothing. Rupa, Nama, that's all.
On what Nina's question is nimitta arising and falling away. What about stages when vipassana jnana, when there is the understanding of the arising and falling away of reality? Is it still not arising, falling away?
What is vipassana?
Panya.
Now or when?
When it arises, when it's conditioned to arise. When
is there any difference between panya now and vipassana?
Yes, quite a lot. Yes.
Now, even the nimitta of a reality does not appear, right?
Right. Yes.
So, by understanding the truth, What is that? It's the reality which has that characteristic, seeing. Is there any understanding of seeing? It's not I or anyone at all. Otherwise, how can there be the experiencing of the nature of the kalapa which arises and falls? Because now what appears, kalapa of realities, and realities arise and falls away all the time. When it's not known, only the succession of one characteristic through many, many different processes. But what appears is seeing as nimitta. So when Panya understands more and more, clearer and clearer, it's the understanding of the nimitta of a reality, not the arising and falling away of any nimitta. We use this because we understand that nimitta must be many, many moments of the arising and falling away of a reality. Nothing appears as arising and falling away. And how many nimittas of different namas and different rupas. That's why whatever appears now, it does not appear well. So beginning to understand the difference between appear well and appear as nimitta to ignorance, attachment, and so on. That's why whatever now appears is the same, but Panya is different from moment of talking about seeing right now and understanding. Seeing is not the moment of hearing. They cannot be together at all. So when there is attention and understanding more about the truth of just one reality, appear at a time as nimitta. So when the characteristic appears as only one reality, clear vipassana, not the other reality there at all. Just what is there in a moment, no one there at all. That is clear enough to appear to right understanding, which understand the difference between different rupas and different namas. So one by one only one, and by one only. It's there to be known. Clear at that moment. What does it mean clear? No other reality besides that which is appearing at all. Imagine, is it true? The truth has to be as it is, and the truth can be known by Panya, stage by stage, to understand that it's no one and no thing at all, because it's only that which has such characteristic appearing. One at a time from the very beginning now, intellectually understanding, but what appears is just many things at once at moment of seeing now. So it means that is not clear understanding of what we have heard at all. About seeing cannot be anything. It seems only imagine when it is the high level of Panya which can directly experience the truth. It opens up the truth as long or short by conditions, who knows, and what's the object. But no doubt about the characteristic of that which experiences, no matter it's hearing or thinking, nothing is there at all, no shape or form, only unreality experiences. Different objects appear as no one and nothing. As it is now, but it's not known because no understanding enough to that level to understand the distinction between nama and rupa. So clear. And what is made by so clear? Nothing is there, just only one object at a time. One nimitta of a reality, of one reality. Not different from now. So sitting, listening to the teachings in the old days at the Buddha's time, there can be enlightenment at any moment by conditions. The Buddha listened to Assaji, who knows what happened by conditions. What was seen is only Sariputta listened to Assaji, but who knows about Panya, which experience what is there as it is naturally, normally, but Panya is so keen enough to penetrate the truth of just one reality at a time. So it means one nimitta of a reality at a time. And when you use the word nimitta, it's not the mitta of shape and form as things or people, but nimitta of that reality, because only one moment of reality cannot be directly experienced by way of process. Who can change the truth, but Panya can develop to the degree it's able, it's there, experiencing, not knowing before what moment will be there and how many objects are there as different namas and different rupas. No doubt about the characteristic of nama. So as the Vipassana Jnana, the understanding at that level is parinya, yata parinya. Today, the same as at moment when Panya experienced directly the nature of that object. So there can be the understanding of the difference moment between Vipassana Jnana and Parinya. Not the direct one, but having experienced that, it begins to be familiar with any reality at moment Sati is there. By conditions, more or less, to get away or to let go the idea of I, little by little, or staying little by little. But why? How? At moment of touching, hardness is not a cup, not a flower or anything at all. It's hard, only hardness. How can it be something when it's hard, just hard? More confidence of the truth, more sattva and panya never changed. That's why there can be more respect to the Buddha when there's more understanding of the truth. What appears now is not at moment of Vipassana Jnana, but the moment of Vipassana Jnana is not different from now. But Panya is so keen that it can penetrate what is there now. Nama as Nama, Rupa and Rupa, not enough. Parinya goes on and on, developing the understanding naturally to know the idea of self or something. Kanti Barani, wait, because no one can do anything by conditions what is there this moment or next moment or at the moment. More confidence of the truth and understanding a little more after the first Vipassana about the truth of what is there. Even it's known as different nama and different rupa, but Panya does not let go enough to have the object appear well and more and more and more and more until it cannot hide from Panya to see it, to understand it. So natural. That's why when nothing is, but when there is the thing or the practice or whatever, which is this moment of understanding, useless because it's wrong. No understanding of this moment. Can we say that it's right? No understanding of the truth of this moment. For example, before hearing about the truth of seeing and whatever is there, we take everything for I and thing all the time. No idea at all about the truth of that very moment, that actually what is seen and actually what is heard. But after hearing, it conditions a little more understanding of the truth. To be truthful to the truth, no one can do anything. Actually, there's no one. Even thinking is a reality. What are cetasikas and citta? Wholesome or unwholesome, or vipaka or kiriya, that's all by conditions. Without the firm understanding of the truth, there cannot be conditions to understand more about the truth of this moment. What is the difference? It's only right understanding, sharper and sharper, and letting go all that has accumulated from eons and eons to take something or everything for something.
So Alberto, it's the reality itself which arises and falls away. It's the reality itself which is a terror or fearful. It's the reality itself which is the truth. But it can only be known by way of the nimitta. So because of the rapid rising and falling away of so many realities. So it's the nimitta of the truth that is revealed, the nimitta of the reality which arises and falls away that is revealed. The nimitta is the sign of the reality, but it's the reality itself which arises and falls.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you very much.
And right up to the moment of enlightenment, it's the sign of the reality. So it's the reality itself which appears more and more clearly through the development of panya by way of the nimitta, but it's still reality that is revealed by understanding the nimitta of its characteristic.
Getting closer to the truth, little by little, step by step. By hearing about it. That's incredible. Just by hearing.
Otherwise, it's not vipassana jnana. Each word is so true. Only our reality appears at a time. What does it mean? What truth it is there? Nothing besides that, only. And what does it mean? Only. Only is only. No change. Beyond imagination, just only one. Nothing else. No world, no people, no things, only that reality. Appears unexpectedly, anatta. To know the truth of each moment in life, that it's just like that. Depends on whether it's known as its truth or not. Before hearing about nimitta, who knows that in life just live in the world of nimitta? Nothing permanent at all. Nothing can be taken for anything because it's gone as soon as it has risen.
And it seems like there's something worth keeping, there's something worth holding to. And that's just ignorance and attachment. Because of maybe it's like hoping or the accumulation that cannot. There's no way to change one's accumulation, but can be added a little bit. Yeah, Ajahn, I was reading about also the ocean of samsara, as well as the ocean of the teaching, and he mentioned that each lifetime is like a drop in the ocean.
Why the
words,
it's the ocean now? When there's no understanding. That's why it all depends, everyone, on the accumulation, whether one has interest in understanding or not. To be truthful, to see the value, the precious moment, understanding, as it does not be there before.
And in this lifetime, we can add. It's not a drop in the ocean of samsara, but can be a drop in the a drop, like a little bit of the of the boat that which help us to cross the samsara and get to the far shore, the end of samsara. I just the preciousness of this life is of hearing the teaching is it can be under stress. It can be I don't know how to say the word, but it's so precious. So hopefully not unique, but very rare indeed.
And this is the beginning to understand what is meant by parami.
Can't hear you, Sarah. Sarah, can't hear you.
The other day I was mentioning the word gana and how we often read about it in connection with anatta, when there is the taking of what appears as a whole, then no understanding of dhammas as anatta. And here is a good quote: the characteristic of no self doesn't appear owing to not keeping in mind, not penetrating the resolution into the various elements, owing to its being concealed by compactness, gana. When resolving of the compact, gana viniboga is affected by resolution into the various elements, the characteristic of no self appears in accordance with its true essential nature. In other words, if there's no understanding of dhammas as elements, as khandhas and so on, there's always the idea of something there, a whole, because of being concealed by the mass together, the Ghana. So impossible to understand the truth of Dhammas as anatta without talking about and discussing and understanding different realities as they are. So I think the Ghana means what is very thick and dense and compact. When it's something all joined together, not the opposite of understanding the different elements. And it's now and truth. There's no thick or dense anything. There are just different elements arising and falling away. But they can only be known by the nimitta of those realities, which have to appear clearer and clearer as dhammas, as anatta. Sita, do you have any topic you would like to bring up today? We can't hear you, Sita. Sorry, we're not hearing you, Sita. You need to unmute.
Yeah, everyday life with all this habit, there are so many accumulation, and you start being aware that they are sometimes inevitable, unavoidable, but you're aware of it. That was my consideration, to understand it.
Usually those accumulations are all taken for my accumulation. And Alberta made some passing comment about accumulations changing or not changing. But if there's any idea of changing accumulations, then it shows the clinging to what is experiencing now as mine or my accumulation. Actually, aloba now is accumulation, dosa now is accumulation, but it doesn't belong to me or anyone. And it has to just arise by conditions and fall away by conditions.
Yes, and I talked with about the losses, a loss of a dog that one does, or the loss of one's mother. I talked with Sita about this before the session, and how hard the time can be. But Ajahn said many good things about losses.
So what is the truth of loss? What is loss?
That one loses something one clings to, and that causes so much sadness, you know, a person or even a dog.
And in truth, what reality is there?
Reality.
Forgot
Thinking of self, clinging to self.
until it's not forgotten, the characteristic at that very moment appears and then gone. Seeing is not feeling. Sadness It's not hearing until it's known. It's not anyone, not a dog or a person, or friends or parents, grandparents, only different realities. And what can be known is only when it's there at that moment. When it's that feeling, it is the object, shows as it is a reality and no understanding of it. But since it's so true, so sad, appearing, it's moment to understand that kind of reality as it's just a moment of feeling. And there are many feelings in life, depending on what can be known at the moment when it's there too. That's why Panya is there, understanding what moment is right understanding, and at moment is ignorance and unwholesome reality. Is sad the wholesome moment or reality, sadness? Not at all. So at that moment, unwholesome reality arising, falling away, accumulated of ignorance. And it is also attachment to that kind of feeling as I. How many layers of attachment? Just learn about the truth in life, and only Panya can understand that, not anyone. And Panya grows, develop with the more considering about the truth of what is there by conditions. That's why we usually, normally, always talking about what is there to be known. Otherwise, there cannot be any understanding of anything in life at all.
And in the deepest sense, is there any moment in life when there is not loss? Because even now, the seeing is lost, it's gone instantly. The hearing is lost, the pleasant feeling is lost, the kindness is lost, the understanding is lost. Whatever arises has to fall away. So actually, there's loss at each moment in life. And this is the truth of dukkha, that whatever arises has to fall away.
Yeah.
Is it so sad to hear the truth about this? See, when it's not a being, it doesn't condition sadness. Right? Seeing's gone. Who is sad?
So when there is panya, it cannot be sadness.
And when there is the understanding, no sadness at all. But when it's attachment, it's sad. Hearing about what we like is not there anymore.
But it is so natural to be attached. It is conditioned.
Nobody can change the truth. It's there. That can be the understanding of that very moment.
We can understand how painful lobha is.
Yeah.
So Sita, what about the accumulation now? What is the accumulation now? Is it the sad accumulation or the happy accumulation or the understanding accumulation? What is the accumulation now?
By understanding more, it reduces, it becomes less sad. It reduces the sadness.
Because a little bit more understanding that in truth there are just different realities, and even the sadness just is for a moment and then gone. As Jan was stressing, at moments of understanding, no sadness, no clinging to oneself at those moments, no thinking of the loss of my pleasant feeling at those moments.
This is also the habit pattern of the mind, that this person or this dog is there. Now it is no more there. You have to realize that it's no more there, and it never stays. Life is never the same. So I understand it in this way. Am I correct?
It's true. And as Nina said, it's natural to be sad. Everyone is sad when there is loss of that which is so dear to one, the person, the dog, and so on. But there can be understanding even at those moments of sadness, because the sadness is it's a Dhamma, and it doesn't last either. It seems I'm so sad all day or all week or all month or all year. But actually, sadness is just for a moment and then gone, and more moments of sadness. But at moments of seeing, moments of hearing, where is the sadness? But the moments of enjoying our lunch or moments of reflecting on the Dhamma, where is the sadness? So whatever is conditioned has to be like that, but it doesn't last at all. Nothing lasts.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ajahn.
Sarah, could you explain a little bit to Sita also about, well, that's my word, the misplacement to be sad because there's new life somewhere.
So usually when we think of the sadness and we think about the loss of the person and we feel so sad that they have passed away, but actually it's just the clinging to the loss of our own pleasant feeling. So it's my unpleasant feeling because I don't like the loss. But for the being that has passed on, new life, new realm, new family, everything forgotten here. The dog has forgotten all about the family here. New life, new teachers, new birth, new family, excited about the birth of the new being. And everything left behind. But what is left is just the sadness because of clinging to the loss of our pleasant feeling.
It needs a deep understanding, to realize this. Thank you.
But Sarah, when your mother died, and then Ajahn reminded you that your mother wouldn't think of you anymore because it's a new life.
Right. And it's always like that. The one that passes away, like Chanti's father last week, new life, everything here forgotten, just like we have no recollection of our last life or last family or last dear ones, all forgotten. And as soon as there is the new life, everything forgotten, all the dear ones in this life will be forgotten. That's why, as Alberta was saying, the understanding is so precious, because only understanding can solve all the problems in life. Nothing else can.
In many ways, it helps to enlighten the art of thinking. Am I right?
I think the wise reflection, especially the wise reflection about different dhammas is the way that all difficulties, all problems are solved, but very little by little, but understanding that there is only Dhamma now, the world at this moment, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, seeing, hearing, in truth, no dear ones as we're used to thinking, no Ajahn, no Jonathan, no Nina, just that which is seen now, the visible object, just the sound which is heard now, no one there at all. So just as there is no dear one that has passed away, no dog anymore, actually, even before there was no dog, no dear one, there was still just sound heard, visible object seen, and thinking a lot about this dear dog or this dear person. So we live in the dream world, the fantasy world about everything that we find so important and dear, not understanding the truth about the reality now.
Thank you, Sarah.
And what about if the dog now was born in heaven? Are you sad? Our parents or the dear one or anyone, the undear one. It's only moment of having such object only to condition even feeling. And at moment of understanding, sanya begins to mark correctly, little by little, together with understanding when it's there. That's the way to have less sanya vipallasa.
Yes.
Dita, do you understand what sanya vipallasa is? I can't hear
Yeah.
you, Sita.
Sanya, yeah, vipallasa, not very sure about it.
So at moments of when reflecting on the truth that actually now is just the visible object seen, at moments of understanding, the sanya marks that object and is wholesome together with the understanding. At moments of thinking about one's sadness and the loss of one's dog and how one misses the dog and so on, this is the akusala sanya that arises with that thinking, the perversion of sanya vipallasa. So whilst one is thinking about the different friends and the different scenery around, taking it off was so real, it is sanya vipallasa at those moments, akusala sanya. Dreaming all day, like during the night, dreaming with attachment, dreaming with ignorance, sanya vipallasa.
Okay, that sanya has two functions. This one is different vipallasa. The other sanya is to mark what is already happened in the past. That's sanya. Vipallasa is at the present moment dreaming about what is continuously going on.
Sanya vipallasa just refers to whenever the sanya is akusala. So at the moment of ignorance, the moment of attachment, the sanya at those moments marks and remembers the object, but in an unwholesome way.
Okay.
It's marking it accompanied by ignorance and attachment, different from moments of when there is wise reflection or understanding. Of those moments, no sanya vipallasa, because it's kusala at that moment.
Okay, thank you. Kulaka kusala. Thank you, Sarah.
At the moment when Sanya is Vipallasa, is Chitta also Vipallasa? They arise together.
Must be. So if the Sanya is akusala, the Chitta is akusala too. And only the Arahat has no more Sanya or Chitta Vipallasa, because the subtle akusala Sanya, the subtle akusala Chitta can only be eradicated when no more ignorance at all.
Is the opposite of Sanya Vipallasa Sama Sanya?
Sorry, did you say? Yeah. The object of the Sanya Vipallasa can be anything. It can be a reality, it can be a concept, but it is marked with unwholesome memory.
I
But
didn't
even-
say object. I said opposite. Is the opposite of
Or opposite.
Vipallasa, is that Sama Sanya? So Vipallasa Sanya is the opposite of Sama Sanya. Is that right?
When it's Vipallasa, no Sama, anything for sure.
But during Kusala, there's no Sanya Vipallasa, and that Kusala not necessarily with Panya.
So usually we don't refer to Kusala Sanya as Sama, but we can say it's Sama in the sense that it's Kusala, that's all. But even at moments of kindness, no Sanya Vipallasa, but as Sugin said, no Panya, so we wouldn't refer to it as Sama, but it's Kusala at those moments. It's the opposite of Kusala Sanya. How about now, Sita? Any Sanya Vipallasa now?
Have to unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah, still considering. Yeah, still considering. Understand it already. Try to understand this Sanya Vipallasa.
I think it's very easy because we know that even now, while we chat about Dhamma, most of the time there is ignorance and attachment. As soon as seeing has fallen away or hearing has fallen away, there is ignorance or subtle attachment completely unknown. But those moments, Sanya Vipallasa is here now. Even at the moment now, doubt on considering or not being sure, ignorance is there, doubt is there, Sanya Vipallasa for sure. So the more understanding, the more Sanya Vipallasa is known.
Sometimes you understand, and now you understand, but then sometimes it's something naturally happen unknowingly.
And how long does the understanding last for?
Yeah, the minute you understand it, it's you understand, oh, this is Sanya Vipalasa. And then it's a few moments and it's gone again, and unknowingly, if you're aware, you know that it's Sanya Vipalasa. And then suddenly, after some time, it backs unknowingly. You get back to
what about now after seeing? Is there any knowing that it's Sanya Vipalasa? When there's very subtle attachment or subtle ignorance, is there any knowing of anything?
Yeah, understanding that, and understanding and being aware that is Sanya Vipalasa.
I think it's just thinking about it, because usually nothing known at all at this moment after seeing and hearing, nothing known at all. So there can be thinking, oh, now that's Sanya Vipalasa, but that's thinking about it. It's not understanding how Sanya Vipalasa arises all the time, even now while we're chatting.
Okay.
I think there's a difference, Sita, between what Sarah means when she says understanding. She means is there panya, and we only understand like daily life understanding. So daily life understanding, if we think we do and we consider, still probably there's not reality of understanding panya.
Okay, thank you.
Whenever we're just thinking, there's probably moha, ignorance.
Okay.
And when there's ignorance, there's for sure akusala or vipassala sanya. Because there cannot be kusala sanya when there's ignorance or daily life thinking.
Okay. Yeah, that is unavoidable, yeah. Natural.
And it's now so common.
Okay.
So no use in thinking about being aware all the time, understanding what is occurring now, because this is a conventional idea of awareness or understanding. It's not the reality of awareness that just arises by conditions with kusala citas. It's the idea of I that can be aware of what there is at this moment. Nothing to do with the characteristic of sati.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
And maybe, Sita, the only reason that we cannot know, for example, after a reality moment of seeing whether there is understanding or whether there is kusala, sanya, not vipalasa sanya, we cannot know because it's so incredibly fast. It's like milliards and milliards of moments already gone before we can think. It's a little idea, uncountable moments. So if we say we know, then we say we know, like say a milliard of a moment, and we cannot. I'm just trying to give you a metaphor.
Thank you.
I've got a total different question. Is that okay?
Hi, Carmen, go ahead.
Because what I not really understand, or totally not, is when you go to the feathers, you know, the illusion of self. When you become a Sotapanna, you have overcome this one. But when conceit, only you overcome when you are becoming an Arahant. But in my understanding of conceit, there is a lot of illusion of self involved.
And how about now? Any conceit now? Sorry, can't hear.
Yeah, sorry. Not at this moment, I would say. Conceit. Yeah.
So it depends on whether it appears or not, because we could speculate about whether the thought we had earlier today was conceit or wrong view of self, but it's only when it actually appears, when the reality appears, that it can be understood as it is. Because both arise with attachment, both arise with pleasant feeling usually, but different realities. When it's conceit, it's finding oneself important, finding oneself different from the other, or finding that one's way or manner or essence is somehow important, somehow special. Whereas when there's wrong view, it is the wrongly taking the reality for something or someone. So they cannot arise at the same moment, but they can follow after each other.
Yeah, but let's say I know we're not really happy with let's says, but I'm a Sakadagami. So I overcame the feather of wrong view of self, but there can be still moments of conceit. And it's hard for, yeah, sorry.
I was going to say it's a different kind of unwholesomeness, because the person who no longer has a wrong view of self as defined can still be concerned about how he or she is perceived by others.
Yeah, and also conceit is also like, I believe you have 9 swords, you know, I'm better than you, I'm less than you, I'm equal to you, etc.
Right.
But it's I. So.
But I doesn't necessarily mean that there's a belief in a soul, or it doesn't necessarily involve that kind of belief we're talking about. So the idea of me as an individual is one thing, and the idea that there is a self or soul, but that behind that individual is another thing.
Yes.
That's why one can't generalize and say any idea of I is wrong view of self or involves an idea of self. You are right. Yeah. There's lots of I and me in conceit, but it doesn't have to involve the idea of a soul or a single entity that persists from one life to another.
Yeah, but that's interesting, because when okay, let's say I'm a Sakadagami and I still have conceit, so I think in this moment you are better than me, you know, and but I realized that there's not a me, so it's sort of a more of an empty comparison.
It doesn't quite work like that. That's just reasoning, and
yes, it is.
So the tendency to compare is still there, even though you reason, okay, why should I compare myself to another when it's only namas and rupas anyway that arise and fall? Where it doesn't work like that, because there is that tendency to make the comparison.
Yeah, it's just a moment coming and going, and they're less clinging at it, on it, I don't know, than, yes, a normal.
Yeah, the way we kind of understand things, we think that once the idea of self is no longer there, then all these other kind of agusala tendencies would tend to fall away, but it's not right. They don't, because they are not dependent on that belief, that wrong view. They're accumulated. Yeah.
Maybe you can elaborate more, Jonathan, on the reality of conceit when it arises, what it is.
Well, it's really what Sarah said it is. It's thinking oneself important, putting oneself forward, waving one's banner or flag. Hello, look at me, sort of thing. And of course, it has more subtle forms, but that's the essence of it. So it's quite a common unwholesome factor. And if I could think of it, I would mention the situation you raised in the last day or so that I thought at the time, well, that also involves conceit. You were enumerating a number of unwholesome mental states that may have been involved, and there was conceit was another one that wasn't actually mentioned. But a lot of the time when we react to someone doing something that we don't approve of, for example, that's conceit.
Or that
or judging people, their behavior,
or that
their standards.
I like my understanding. You mean that I said that? That's very often that I'm
Sorry,
happy.
I missed that.
When I'm happy that I understand, then there's lobha and conceit.
It wasn't quite so obvious as that. That's
Well,
quite
I think you were referring that I was saying that there can be conceit of thinking that we understand. Also, not always comparing to, well, the comparison is there, of course, but
I think in the text they talk about the conceit of youth and the conceit of health being well and the conceit of intellect and all this sort of thing.
Conceit of not needing glasses, the conceit of having hair. Why is he having those curtains for the backdrop? Conceit can come in can be so very subtle. Why that color shirt? Conceit.
yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Someone not muting can be conceit instantly.
What do you mean?
Because behind the idea can be the idea, I remember to mute. When we say, oh, this one hasn't muted, behind it is the idea it's different from the way I behaved.
Wow.
Or the backdrop.
I think any way of judging other people must involve some kind of conceit, like that, judging another person's actions or looks or choice of preferences.
They get paid more than me.
Well, that's the one we understand, but the subtle one that Carmen is talking about, it's nice to hear examples. And to me, at this moment, when Sarah said about the muting, it's also the ignorance that is left, I guess, that goes together with conceit.
Mana means to measure. So it's a kind of measuring that we're often doing, using a yardstick of what's appropriate or what we think is appropriate or right or wrong for that matter. So it can manifest itself in, as you're noticing, hundreds of different ways, different shades that are sometimes quite subtle.
And that's why I said to Carmen, what about now? Because it can only be known at that moment. We can think back about the beginning of discussion and someone was not muting and we can try to guess whether there was any mana, but that's not the understanding of the nature of mana. It has to be now when it appears, and the same with ditthi. So if there's no mana now appearing, it can't be known. But when it's there, it can be known and can be very, very subtle, no obvious comparing, but just the impression, like the curtains behind in Jonathan's backdrop. Why those curtains? It can just be mana, even at the moment of thinking like that. Very subtle.
Yeah, and I think I also had a wrong understanding of ditthi, which I'm struggling for a long time with that word, or with that meaning. But ditthi is as it sounds, is less, is more shallow. It's not shallow, but than I expected, because it is the being aware that that there is no self or no substance that is continuing, because I thought it was more strong. So I was also a bit like, how can you still have dosa and moha and greed when you understand really that there is no I, but yes, so that makes it clear that it's just the understanding that there's not a self that is continuing, and
like even now we know it's visible object seen because we've heard it so many times, but someone there or an arm here. So the idea of someone or something or computer here, the idea that actually there is something here. So ditthi can arise so very commonly, even now, even during Dhamma discussions, different kinds of attachment with on its own, attachment with conceit, attachment with ditthi, and the more understanding, the more is revealed.
But isn't Carmen right that in the moment, the reality moment of ditthi, there cannot be conceit, and in the reality moment of conceit, there cannot be ditthi?
Right, different moments cannot be together. Clinging and ignorance, but different way of thinking.
They can alternate, of course.
Yeah, that's right. I was just going to say that. Yeah, they could go very, very quickly between one moment of mana and then a moment of ditthi, or vice versa, quite quickly alternating. I suspect that often is the case, actually.
Yeah, but it would make sense to Carmen's dilemma.
And in truth, yes. Carmen, sorry.
No, you keep going, Sarah.
I was going to say, in truth, it's not someone or not a Sakadagami that overcomes the idea of self. It's just the development of panya that develops on and on until it's eradicated. So, and the same with conceit. It's not I who have conceit or overcome conceit. So whatever we're talking about, it's just the development of understanding.
Yeah, sorry. I said it in a way like Sakadagami is a person, which is not correct.
Yeah. We understood.
Yeah. I think also, Carmen, what I find helpful, because some of these mental factors are not easy to even understand intellectually. The more we hear about them, consider them, they can become clearer. But when Sotapattimagga, or when you become, if you like, Sotapanna, you also, there is the eradication of what's called silabbata paramasa. Now, that means literally behaving in ways that you think are conducive to the path, or conducive to an enlightened way that will lead to, developing more understanding. Like the common one that Tanajan often mentions is like thinking you have to go to a certain place. That is a good example of sort of answering this question in a kind of roundabout way. When we believe that, they have to go to a certain place, at a certain whatever, be in a certain posture, etc., that is a behavior that is not in accordance with Dhamma, literally means a solitary sila means behavior, cycle, or going in a way that paramasa means to grab onto a way which you think is the right way. Now, at the moment, it makes sense to me that at the moment of Sotapattimagga, that is eradicated. That is one of the fetters, as you mentioned. Some yojana, they've got all sorts of different names that are eradicated at the path moment. And also, as you know, and you alluded to that earlier on, Carmen, was that also Ditti is another Chaitasika that Micca Ditti, as it's usually alluded to as, is also eradicated. So it makes sense to me that that would have to be eradicated, this idea of you have to go to a certain place. And also the other one, of course, it's eradicated at the path moment of Sotapattimagga is Vicigicca, doubt. So there's no more any doubt about what is the path and what is not the path. There's no idea that you have to do certain things or go put yourself bodies into certain postures or do, what we might consider to be, things that are really not in accordance with what the Dhamma is about. And then you're asking, trying the difference between mana and ditti, and different people have been speaking about mana, which is very different to ditti, which is the fixed, firm, false belief that there is a self, whereas mana is a little bit more subtle, but of course it can be quite gross too. Measuring yourself and being quite haughty, and looking down upon people in a very, what we'd say perhaps arrogant way, then that is very obviously mana. There's probably a lot of ditti in that behavior too, as Jonathan mentioned. They alternate quite quickly sometimes, I'm sure. So the more we can understand them intellectually, the more there can be a better, clearer understanding of what these mental factors are. And it's helpful to know. And just because you think of, I need to do this and I need to do that, in the process of your day-to-day activities, doesn't mean to say there's ditti either. So we have to consider these matters carefully and attend as much as possible as conditions allow to understanding what the present reality is, and usually seeing and thinking, visual object, they're our kind of bread and meat, if you like, and that the gradual understanding of those realities can enable a clearer understanding of the other ones. But it's a lot of patience and time and considering carefully, listening to what others say to help us to get a better understanding of these different Dhammas, because they are quite subtle. Dhamma is subtle and Dhamma is difficult. It's not easy to think, I've got it all now, I understand everything. It's not like that. It just takes a lot of patience and careful consideration.
Thank you.
There is also one third aspect of I, which is the I only with lobha. So there are three kinds of I with ditti, I with mana, and I with lobha, which shows how subtle the I is. Even without ditti, even without mana, there is still the idea of I. Not the idea, maybe, but I don't know. I'm just really speculating a bit. Maybe Ajahn can explain these three kinds of I, Ajahn, if you can, thank you.
That's why as long as there is lobha, there must be the I with mana or the I with ditti. And we know about the I with ditti. And what about the I with lobha? See, at the moment there's no ditti and nothing concern I, only just cling to it as my hand, my hair. cling to the beauty, the way it is, and so on for I. But when it's mana, it's like proud, to be proud of what is there as mine. Even it's not wrong understanding, but the way it looks, see, to be proud of that. There is attachment for sure, but it's not only attachment. It is another reality which is proud of what is there as mine. Can it be understood? What are there now? Anything attached or having that characteristic? Proud to have that. Proud to be, proud to have, proud to do, or something like that. Proud to win. See, and again. It's not clear as by way of attachment, because attachment is the base for Titti and mana. Because there is always attachment, but sometimes there is also proud or mana, and sometimes also the Titti, depending on conditions. So it cannot be known until Panya is there, beginning to understand the differences between mana and Titti and Loba. We just talk about it, what is there. And it's so very subtle, all of them. That's why all kinds of realities without right understanding, no one cannot understand the very fine line about different ones, like Chanda and Loba, and Mana with Loba, and so on. Because reality arises together, like Titti arises with attachment, and Mana also arises with attachment, Loba, and how to separate, how to distinguish the two at the moment when it's there. And Panya begins to understand the difference. So it knows that as long as there is Loba, there can be question for Titti, as long as Titti hasn't been eradicated yet. Even Titti has been eradicated, but the pride of that as mine is still there. Unknowingly, just like to win. You are better than the other, the loser. See, something like that. They are all in life unknown until Panya begins to understand the nature of the reality which experiences with Lopa, with Mana, with anger, and with whatever is there that can be known. As it's not the same kind. And they're quite different, but they arise together. That's why right understanding can understand only one reality at a time, as no one. By then, there can be the understanding of the difference little by little, because each is different. Just the way it is. Who doesn't have pride? Who is not proud? Who doesn't want to win? Even in a game, see, it's there. What about more than that? Thing on accumulation. Is anyone proud about being such and such? Or just no pride at all? It's only there. No me, no matter it's wrong or right, good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, just a moment and then gone. And who can imagine Arahata doesn't have pride anymore, no mana anymore. Cleaner, purer than an agami, than anyone who has kilesa.
So as long as there is attachment, there must be a condition for mana as well, even after Sutta-Pattimaga. Is that right?
I don't understand. I don't know Pali, but I do not have proud or pride. No matter I know or I don't know. The truth is that I don't know this, I don't know that, and I know this, and I know that only that. But some is so proud. It depends. It's just a reality. No one to be blamed. And sometimes I use wrong word. All right, it said gone. Otherwise, it can condition a kusala moments quite a long time now and then.
Right. Also,
That's
the manner of being.
Is the understanding of a reality. Do we have to find what word for it? Or when it's that characteristic, no matter what word is used, it means that particular one. And gone, everything's gone.
Yes, some people mind very much if they use the wrong word or make a mistake or the pronunciation is not right. But it's just the clinging, the mana that finds it a problem, not letting go at all. And I think, Alberto, that it's true that while there's attachment, there's bound to be mana, because only when there's no more attachment at all, no more ignorance at all, there's no more mana at all.
Yeah, I think it's very common, Alberto, very, very common. Yes, as you know, there is always attachment that's always lurking, that's close by, and I don't think mana is very far away either. In some particular ways, we say it's quite insidious. Can be very, very subtle, like Lopa, of course. But sometimes I think mana is even more insidious. It's kind of like hidden. But yeah, understanding can grow and understand it. Over time, I think it can become clearer how easily we measure and compare ourselves, as Tanajan's given those examples with regards language. You know, we may feel awkward sometimes in different ways. And they're good examples, it seems to me, of what mana is about.
Yeah, it was interesting also mana when making making mistake while talking can also be mana in the speaker because of feeling not adequate to the situation and all that. And that's there must be attachment, clinging to the self by mana. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think as we were saying before, mana and ditthi, as we know, they cannot arise together, although it can seem like that. But we know, at least in theory, that they don't. And that can be helpful to be able, at least intellectually, to identify them as different dhammas. And that can help us, though they can still be very mixed up at times. And I don't think it's crucial. I think the more we talk about it and get a clearer understanding about these different dhammas, that's helpful. It must be helpful. But I don't think in the beginning it's crystal clear what the difference clearly is between some of these dhammas. Ultimately, only Panya can truly know. In the meantime, we just listen carefully, attend carefully to what's being said. And in time, I believe, I have confidence that these dhammas will become clearer. until one day they are very clear. Or as Kun Sujin often says, they are known well. They are known well, but in the meantime, they're not known well. So we need to be very patient to get to that point where they are well known. But that's time and a tremendous amount of patience.
Also reminds me of another reminder, as Anson usually gives, about the attachment being like space in between kalapas, which is a really good picture of.
Yeah, that's very good, because it makes it very clear. It almost seems impossible to know those, but we can appreciate how keen Panya must be to know that level of subtleness, or subtle is perhaps even not the word either, because it's incredibly delicate and precise, incisive really, to know that. And that's the nature of Panya. It can really cut through ignorance very, very clearly. I'm confident that that's so, and it must be so, because often I'm considering, wow, there seems to be so much attachment, so much ignorance at so many different levels. How can Panya eradicate all that stuff? But that's often thinking, the self-thinking, an enormously long story about all these different kilesa and how it can be possible for another mental factor to eradicate them all. That's not very helpful. However, I know I've got the accumulation to think that way, and that's so it must be. But it does occur to me sometimes that Panya must be an unbelievably powerful Cetasika to cut through the ignorance. And Tanajan often alludes to Sariputta, or I'm trying to think of his names. He was at that particular time not so important. At that moment, there were the right conditions when he listened to Vedanta Asaji, and he understood very clearly. And he wasn't looking for anything. There's just the right time and the right conditions, and the powerful, very, very powerful nature of Panya that he had accumulated came to the fore, and understood at a very, very deep level what he was talking about, what Asaji was talking about, and he wanted to go along. And of course, one of the first things he did was he wanted to tell his friend about what he had heard and what he had understood. And so, so the rest we know is history, but we can trust in that to help us appreciate, when the conditions are right, anything can happen.
Yeah, I just thought about the ocean, because there is another ocean, is the ocean of understanding, because you are referring to the depth of Panya required, and it can get the size of the ocean, like very, very big.
Well, as you said, totally, it's profound, depths unimaginable, and of course, all the way through to the ordinary sawaka, if you like, arahata, right through to the Samma Sambuddha, which is just, beyond imagining, of course. However, that is the nature of Panya when the conditions are right, and the confidence in Dhamma that has been developed from moment to moment can appreciate and, of course, understand what the realities are at a very, very deep level. And just, as we know, just takes time. And, of course, continual association and considering and following in accordance with that considering, that skillful considering, which, must follow. When the conditions are put in place, it must follow. the understanding can grow with patience and time. It's just an inevitable outcome of appreciating Dhamma continually, and application over well, thousands and thousands of lifetimes.
And it all starts from seeing an invisible object. Amazing.
Yes, they are our bread and butter. we need to utilize those dhammas, otherwise the other ones won't make much sense. They're the foundation, and as we know, the Buddha was always talking about those bread and butter realities: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Those Wisya Dhammas that Tanajan reminds us of often. There is visual object, obviously, sound, one no gandho, one no sadho, you'd probably know. So visual object, sound, raso, taste, gandho, smell, and of course the three elements related to the body: temperature, hardness or softness, and pressure. And those Wisya Dhammas, or sometimes they're called the Gochara Dhammas, the ones that we feed on, if you like, or the ones relating to objects, the outside objects. They are the bread and butter of Dhamma, and they are the field, if you like, of development of our understanding.
Shanti, while I was listening, I was watching a lady opposite to me setting up a tripod and setting up her posing for the pictures. So mana at those moments, and different moments of metta. But when there's mana, it's the opposite of metta: no friendliness, no kindness. There's the idea of not my way, or what's the point of doing this? So it's mana is there. And at those moments, no kindness, no sympathy at all. When there is kindness, when there's metta, no mana. One's just glad for the other and friendly for the other, happy that they are happy. No mana at those moments. So it's so daily life even now. Looking at the way other people drive on the road, metta or mana, different moments.
When we read in the suttas, usually it refers to ditthi, lobha, and mana with the expressions myself, mine, and I am. So do you have any comment on this?
So when it is ditthi, it's me there, it's something there, myself there, I that is existing, the other that is existing, someone there. But when it's just lobha, it's just clinging to what one would like. So it uses mine in translation, but at that moment, no idea of anything belonging to me, no conceit. It's just clinging to what we would like, and mana. So at those moments, I that is important is behind the idea of why is she using the tripod, or what's the point of this exercise. It's the banner of me at those moments, my importance, no metta at all. I am. I don't mind very much about the words. I think what's important is understanding the different characteristics, understanding more about the realities, even now in daily life when they appear, not by trying to understand, but I think the nature of the different realities becomes more and more apparent. Ditthi is very different from mana.
Thank you. I think what you said is a very good bridge between what can be found in the text and what it's in daily life. I think it's very useful. Thank you.
Because when it's I am, it's proud. One's proud to win the race, or proud not to use the tripod, or proud to have a hat in the sun. My importance.
Very
No
different
kindness.
from what we did in meditation, because there we thought we knew that when there was metta or when there was pride, but we didn't at all. Like you explained with the tripod, it's so subtle, and there needs to be at least intellectual understanding.
Yeah, that is so right, Shanti. I think it's easy to, someone was asking the other day that question about, oh yeah, that's right, the woman the other day asking about a monk teaching what he thinks is the Dhamma, but it's really not in accordance with Dhamma. And of course that can't be kusala, he's teaching. And the Buddha, there's a very good sutta regarding this too, that the Dhamma is subtle. It's easy to mistake what we think is kusala, in actual fact it's akusala. So we always need to consider very carefully what we hear, and I don't think it becomes apparent, depending of course on some people's accumulations. Some people can start to, the matter can start to become clear quite soon, but it's going to depend. It might be just continual considering about, oh, that seems strange. But little by little, these matters become clear. But it all is based upon hearing the right thing often enough and considering it wisely. It's not something that's, readily apparent when we first hear it. Like the woman yesterday was talking about, or the day before. There's been so much Dhamma lately. We've been very fortunate. I can't remember exactly. But, sometimes people think about vegetarianism and things like that. And it's not in accordance with Dhamma. It's absolutely not in accordance with Dhamma. The Buddha made very clear that, meat, there's nothing wrong with eating meat at all. But sometimes people have got this impression, and they get really stuck on it. They really adhere to this belief that, you have to be a vegetarian, and that is a real fetter. It really gets in the way, and that's an example of silabbata paramasa. You have to. It's clinging to a certain type of behaviour that you think is in accordance with truth, and that really gets in the way of helping us to understand. Some of those examples are quite clear, of course, and the Dhamma is a lot more subtle than that. And some people, of course, get it very clearly that that's not the case. Eating, and Tanajan once said very clearly, eating is eating. Eating's not killing, but people have got this idea that somehow eating is killing, which is quite a strange matter when you consider it. Of course, it's not. But the Dhamma is a lot more subtle than that, and we need to consider the matter carefully and often. And it's going to depend upon our accumulations. If you haven't got the accumulations for that, you'll just think, oh, whatever that fellow says, or whatever that woman says, or whatever that man says, that's wrong. And you get really stuck because you've accumulated that tendency to think like that. And so you will do it again and again and again. So, the development of understanding is quite subtle, and it's not as easy as people think it is, because it's going to depend upon the right conditions to facilitate, having the right soil for understanding to grow in. There are a lot of factors that need to come together. And I think it's, there's a lot of factors that need to come together to enable understanding to grow. And it's not just, I'll do it, I can understand and I can follow it. It's just not like that. And we need to be enormously patient, and I think enormously honest. If we want to be, and as Tanajan often says, to be really respectful to what truth really means, and the willingness to consider the matter very carefully and not be stuck in that idea that I know, which is just, so damaging and so unfortunate for the development of understanding.
I have a question about the threefold cycle that we talked about last time a lot, that vipaka conditions the kilesa, and that is a condition for kama, and that conditions again vipaka, and so life goes on. But my question is this: when as vipaka, it conditions like or dislike, or not not so strong. It is kilesa, but it has to be very strong to be able to be kama, to condition kama. And so I was wondering whether it is maybe not just one moment of kilesa, but many, many moments which can condition later on to be so strong that it is a condition for committing kama. That is my question.
And that's why there are 3 vata, not 2. That's why there is vipaka vata, kilesa vata, and kama vata, because just like or dislike now doesn't bring results.
No.
But it accumulates. So the kilesa refers to the accumulation of the like, the dislike, the accumulation of kilesa. And when it's accumulated to the degree that it is kamapata, it can bring results.
Yeah. So I don't have to think of just one moment then.
No, countless moments of liking now that accumulate until it's of a degree that it conditions harmful deeds that can bring results.
Oh, that is clear.
Vata, yeah.
Yes.
And that also, Nina, has to do with kusala too. You know, the more we attend wisely, it accumulates, and it can condition understanding until one day there's very deeper understanding. So obviously this cycle works both ways regarding kusala and akusala, of course, and kusala. It's about habit, you know, the continual, the wise habit or the unwise habit, if you like, that mostly we have that accumulates. And as Sarah said, it can lead eventually to us doing and behaving in ways that are very unhelpful.
I have a question. Tanajan, please excuse me. Is there a word or about Dhamma and forgiveness, mercy? Ka?
We can't hear you, Ajahn. And I'll just before Ajahn speaks, Eve, I'll just mention that I came across forgiveness recently. I was looking at the term abhaya, and we've been talking about abhaya dana recently, which means fearlessness. But apparently this term also means, if I'm not mistaken, forgiveness or pardoning.
What is easier, amisadana or abhayadana?
Well, anusadana. I mean, yes, so easy to be akusala, so much accumulation of that.
Are you talking about dana?
I think Tanajan asked you, Eve, what's easier, abhayadana or amisadana? Abhayadana is forgiving people who have done you wrong, and amisadana is giving away material objects. What do you think is easier?
Is that for me? Sorry, it's a little noisy here, but I think that because of the self in mana and diti, that it's probably easier giving away things, lovely, precious possessions, because self is very, very formidable.
Those are moments of eliminating akusala when it's there. By conditions, understanding can see what's the benefit of getting angry, never forgive. But when Panya is not there, it cannot be as one thinks about it. To not to be angry is better than keep on thinking about the improper way the other done. And at that moment, who knows that kilesa hurts that moment. Whenever it arises, it always harms and hurts. What is that? Chitta is there, hurt by the akusala moment, like the fire burns. If
yes,
the Buddha
Ajahn, it burns. When there is a misdeed, it burns.
Reality are so true, they cannot be changed. The moment of having thinking always about the other's faults, not forgive at all. And the moment of giving, finished, that's all. But moment to give forgiveness, it's quite difficult for someone who doesn't see the danger of the moment of harming oneself by keep on thinking about the other's fault. That no person can harm anyone at all, only the kilesa accumulated. It arises and arises again and again, and only Panya can understand the truth that what is unwholesome, what is dangerous, and what is wholesome. As soon as one forgives, everything is better. Situation is better. Kindness is there, a little more and more and more. It doesn't hurt at all. At moment of being friendly, doesn't take it quite serious about the other's behavior. Instead, it's so pitiful to have such and such kilesa. And we would like to help them not to have kilesa if they would like to understand. Be friendly, metta, unlimited.
It's interesting too, Eve, that you talked about in the Visuddhimagga. There's an example given that it's where it says anger is like a forest fire, the way it burns up its own support. So, a forest, the forest fire destroys the forest. In the same way, anger will have its physiological effects and psychological effects, obviously, on the person who has that anger. It's a toxin. It's toxic, and it burns. Anger burns like the forest fire does.
Kunsundara, would you kindly post that passage for us all to see? And the other thing I wanted to state is that in conventionally speaking, when I do a misdeed, I burn. For example, if I lie, if I want to pad my resume or so on, society will call that a white lie, tell a white lie, make an excuse. I don't feel well, when really the social situation is awkward for me and I don't want to state it to hurt another person's feelings. So these things are very damaging, and I count myself truly blessed to have friends that I can discuss these misdeeds that I've done. And it's not so much about right and wrong and judging, it's just about correcting. So not only to apologize, but to take the corrective action. So I count myself truly blessed to have friends like this who are supportive in this way. So I was interested to learn this new word, abhaya-dana, of forgiveness. But also another wonderful thing is when I've done something wrong and approach the other party, that they will allow me to make restitution or to do the corrective action, rather than being met with a sort of silent treatment sort of a thing. So abhaya-dana, thank you very much, Tanajan. If you have anything further, please.
And that's why it's the gift of fearlessness. So when one forgives and let go whatever occurred, one's letting the other live without fear or anxiety. So it's the gift of fearlessness at that moment of forgiveness.
And just a brief point there too, Eve, where you mentioned white lies, because all the kusala, we don't say white killing or white stealing or white adultery or whatever. I think it's a term, I hear where you come from, but I think it can be somewhat misleading, because a lie is, when all the factors are there, it can be a kusala kamapata, just like when there is killing or intentionally harming or intentionally harming a living creature, or wanting to harm a living creature, or stealing. We don't say, white killing. They're all akusala, and there's nothing bright about them. They're all to be avoided. And the more, of course, we attend to the dhammas that are appearing and learn to understand little by little that reality is very different to what we think it is, the less akusala at all levels there can be. But as you said, that abhaya-dana, it's quite well known in Thailand to give to the other person that even if they have wronged you horribly, you still can let them know that, or by your actions, that you have no intention to harm them, no matter how horrible what they did to you was. That's the gift. You're giving them the gift to be, that you've got no need to feel that I'm going to harm you at all. That is a great gift to give.
Yes, thank you for your comments, Kunsundara. It's getting late, so I will say thank you, Tanajan. Thank you kindly.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn. Thank you for all these wonderful sessions. And we will see everyone from Australia.
Have a safe trip, Sarah and Jonathan.
Thank you, everyone.